Are you ready for a wild ride? Because I just got off one. This was the weirdest, craziest week I have ever experienced. And now I present to you my video rendition and keepsake of this momentous week. There are so many crazy things going on, it's hard to keep track.
I'm eating a lot of fat.
Look at the men on this stage. Sanders makes my skin crawl.
Did you hear what Whoopi Goldberg said?
It's true. It's disturbing.
I'm not eating any grains.
Why are they demonizing Bernie Sanders? Because Joe Rogan mentioned the obvious about Bernie Sanders.
What do these women think they're going to get out of a female president? They already have everything. And there aren't just two groups here we're comparing. There's crazy all over the place.
People were like, what are they talking about? A man who is experiencing cognitive decline right before our very eyes.
Taylor Swift is feeling sorry for herself for being female. At a Taylor Swift concert, there's the line of a men's bathroom.
All men and women created by you know the thing.
But we're going to start our journey down the rabbit hole of insanity with the carnivore crew, the carnivore dieters. Although I have joined that community, I'm not a believer in some of the things they are doing. In my last video, I mentioned one thing I'm not doing on this diet experiment, and that is not drinking milk. There's another thing I'm not doing, and that is keto. I've criticized keto a lot, and I still believe that there's no reason to do it. It's a survival state that the body goes into, and it has nothing to do with weight loss or health, and it's not natural. It's not what the body prefers. Real carnivore animals are not always in ketosis. I think the reason a lot of these carnivore people promote keto so much is because they're trying to top keto. And I think keto was just the next level of low carb.
It's just all meat. Just everything's meat. I'm not eating any grains, and I'm not eating any carbs. Nothing else. I mean, I had like an olive the other day. I had a Bloody Mary.
Does your body go into ketosis at all?
It must.
Yeah,
I'm not even checking. It must. It must be in ketosis. I mean, I'm eating a lot of fat.
Am I hearing this right? Joe Rogan's been hanging out in diet circles for years now with a fascination for high meat diets. And I'm sure he has talked about ketosis before with other people. It sounds like he thinks that eating enough fat is what gets you into ketosis. In reality, it's bringing your carbs down to a very low level is what makes you go into ketosis, because there's not enough carbohydrates to use as energy. And another thing, he did this 30 days, apparently not knowing what he was doing. In all likelihood, he was going in and out of ketosis, which is not good.
And I'm basically trying it based on Mark Bell and Chris Bell, and even more Jordan, because I've talked in depth with Jordan about it. Jordan Peterson is a brilliant guy.
Nowhere on this page, in this chapter, in this book, does it say that saturated fats triggers insulin.
This doctor's sounding like a politician, using distraction, irrelevant comments, and half-truths. Sorry, I misspoke. Gotta clarify. Fake doctor.
It's not in the physiology books, okay? So really, this is why when you go on a ketogenic diet, you keep your carbs low, you're going to improve diabetes and insulin resistance, okay? Does that make sense?
No.
Is keto okay for kids to do, okay? Now, if you think about it, the most popular diet for epilepsy for children is the ketogenic diet because it really is effective.
Oh.
A child that's between 1 and 3 years old has 12 teaspoons of sugar, all right? That's a problem. So keto is very, very healthy because our bodies were not designed to run on that much sugar.
I asked in the comments section, can't you see what he's doing and how flawed this is? But no, most of these people do not see this. Not only does it seem like the world's getting crazier every week, but it seems people are getting dumber. And not just dumb. There's really something wrong with people. He's saying to avoid carbohydrates, because if you eat a lot of carbohydrates, all that fat you're eating will keep the carbohydrates in the bloodstream. It's like saying you should give up oxygen, because too much of it's dangerous. Dr. Berg is teaching us how to respond to a keto critic. Dr. Berg's way of responding to a keto critic is to block him, censor everything he says, so I can no longer comment on his channel. He's never done a debate. He is hiding. He is a known BSer, scam artist, who has been exposed so many times in videos. It's amazing that this guy is so popular and continues to grow.
That clown of a feedlot doctor.
Don't let these two guys plant seeds in their head. You know, this stuff gets into your head. You might forget that you heard it from a YouTube clown, and you might give this information some legitimacy. A good way for us to see a summary of all this stuff that happened is just to look at my Twitter here. Recent news, Taylor Swift releases new song about male privilege, which there's no such thing. Fake lyrics. Though she's made more money than 99.998% of men who have ever lived. I have lived 50 years as a male, and I've never gotten any privilege from it. Okay, here's something, doesn't really fit, but maybe it does. Yeah, see, if this was a man, then MSNBC would be talking about this. But it was a female sheriff deputy arrested for alleged sex with a 16-year-old boy. Notice they spelled rape wrong. Did you catch that? No, you didn't. Nobody catches that. If it was a man, they would be on the news on MSNBC, and they'd call it statutory rape. Here, they'd call it sex. It's so interesting. What's up, California? Is everything okay? Well, half the world is going nuts. That's disturbing stuff. Taylor Swift is going full crazy feminist stunts. She is a female in a feminist society. She is worth $400 million. She is genetically gifted, looks like a model, worshipped by millions of women and men. And she is saying, the lyrics are, if I was a man, I would get there faster. She was a rich star at age 16. The video was all about how women have it harder. Oh, man. And this is trending on Twitter. The same day that Warren drops out, Elizabeth Warren, last female in the race to drop out. The only decent woman who ran, President Tulsi Gabbard, they pushed her out, and feminist Hillary said some despicable stuff about her. Hey, Hillary, that's the kind of thing that got you to lose. And on Super Tuesday, I was watching CNN, and that channel and the Democratic establishment were perfectly aligned and really transparent. Seems like the Democratic Party got 3 of the candidates to drop out and endorse Joe Biden. I came up with a name for him, the Status Joe. I can't believe no one else has come up with that one. And then come the 4th one, just yesterday, and that's Elizabeth Warren. And all of this is just real irritating. Then along comes Taylor Swift, and then Brian Williams, and all the feminists. And then the Young Turks comes on yelling at the Democratic Party. What the heck are you doing? Do you want to win? Good comment about the crazy gender war. Why don't we take a step back from this man bashing for a while? At least until we get Trump out of office. It's gotten absurd. That's from a woman, apparently. There are plenty of women who are just not on board with this identity politics. And so here's my official tweet about Elizabeth dropping out. With this latest dropout of Warren, there are no more women in the race. Let's see a lesson here. And it is not the existence of a fake glass ceiling. The 5 women who were in the race were not somehow targeted. There was no barrier. They just blew it. Of course, it's not that simple. You can only say so much in the tweet, you know. I was out of characters, as usual. It's a lot more complicated than that. You have to build up to winning a presidential election. And Joe Biden has only gotten in there because he was vice president, and everyone knows him. He's got name recognition. Oh, and then I commented on my tweet there. Most of them just sucked or made crazy comments. Warren lowered herself to Trump's level when she joked about Bloomberg's height, which is 5'7" or 8. She's 5'8", and it just shows hypocrisy. Liberals and feminists even are always speaking out against this kind of behavior. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, I'd forgotten about the Bill Clinton incident. At that point, I was thinking, is this real? Am I having some kind of a nightmare that started in 2016? Warren dropped out, and later in the day, I turned on the TV to see what people were saying, and it was an irritating experience. It's so regrettable that this is reality, and we get this crap. Now, I said in a video in 2016, where I said I wanted Hillary to win, not just because Trump is evil, but because it's time to get a women's presidency done with already. If only so we can stop having this scenario where the feminists come on TV and say, poor us, the patriarchy is keeping us down and oppressed. No, it is the rich people that are oppressing the poor people. That's the reality. And then Hillary missed winning just by a set of flukes. She should have won. She didn't. And now 3 years later, here we are. Let's play the tape.
And ever since then, the dream of the woman president has just been growing and growing and growing. And here we are tonight with, as I've said before, what Bernie Sanders describes as just the two old white guys left in the race.
Well, it's, of course, I remember that evening.
And there's a reason why it always ends up being a man. It's not the reasons that feminists and liberals come up with. It's because they don't actually do the research and find the reality using logic. That would be logical. No, they just go with their feelings. And you're about to hear that right here.
And the second thing she said is everything Fred Astaire did.
Oh, here we go. All this crap. She's just getting warmed up because here it comes.
What the women who've been running for president have to go through just to be considered equal to the men.
Lily, you're in a unique position for observations about this, having worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign, the campaign that got more votes for president of the United States than the opponent.
Now, I liked Cecile Richard over the past couple of years. I'm all for Planned Parenthood. It's just this feminist crap. She's just the first one in a lineup at this wine fest pity party.
What's your level of frustration with the Woman for President challenge?
Well, look, I think, for a lot of us, the reason it's a gut punch that, Senator Warren has left the race today is that it's the culmination of not just the most diverse field becoming not diverse, but also the most women ever a part of a presidential field, obviously one by one leaving this race. And I think it sort of cements that feeling for women who run for president that, you have to run twice as fast to get half as far. But I think, too, for many women that I talk to, especially.
And what women did you talk to get her confirmation bias? And when she said run twice as fast, I'm now realizing that she is quoting that Taylor Swift song. Oh, Warren was doing fine in the beginning. Then we saw more and more of her and her lies, in her smears, in her immature attitude. Men did not cause this. Women are the majority of the people who were voting and didn't vote for the 5 women. And another thing, what do these women think they're going to get out of a female president? They already have everything. Obama was a feminist. Bill Clinton was too. Next lineup. Look at the expressions on these women's faces. Here we've got the dead eyes, undercarved look. Here we have arrogance. Here we have bigger arrogance. The resident feminist of NBC. I just heard what Joy had to say here, and it's just a whole bunch of dumbness. Really, it's not even crazy talk. It's just dumb.
Another brilliant piece in The Atlantic about this today. Under the headline,
the news is repeating other news sources' headlines, which is, fake news. That's how Lawrence is getting away with saying something fake without him. He's not saying it. It's The Atlantic saying it. Let's bring in Vice and Jezebel.
Under the headline, America punished Elizabeth Warren for her competence. There was the line, women.
That's stupid.
Candidates are punished still for public displays of ambition.
Yeah, amen. Because look how much people adore Elizabeth Warren now that she's not seeking power.
We just like the fact she's gone. she's not acting like a bitch anymore. Right, see, this is a problem for women. They're not really good at going up against other people, competing without getting too emotional and negative. So now that Elizabeth Warren is out of the spotlight, we won't have to hear any of these lame smear attempts anymore. And eventually the American people will hopefully forget about all these lame antics.
Senator Warren, what are you doing here?
Did you really think you were going to get away from me that easy? It's my job now. I follow you around, make your life a living hell. I might be fifth in the polls, but I'm number one in your nightmares, Mike.
Hillary Clinton was incredibly popular before she started seeking power.
Oh, yeah.
Kamala Harris, while she was seeking the presidency, was vilified for being a prosecutor. When we have prosecutors...
No, it's for exactly what she did as a prosecutor. She put a lot of black people in jail.
It drives me nuts. Go ahead.
So look, AOC's in a tough position there. They bring her on and they go, okay, now you represent all the misogynists, go. So now you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you say, no, it's not good, they say, oh, so you are one of the misogynists. What? I'm a woman, what are you talking about, right? So it puts AOC in an impossible situation. But now these are show trials where the McCarthyites bring you out and go, apologize, apologize. Every day you must apologize. Did you hear what Whoopi Goldberg said? Bernie Sanders is supposed to, in the middle of a presidential campaign, stop his campaign and every single day apologize for Twitter trolls. Hillary Clinton supporters have to apologize for all the terrible things they said about Bernie Sanders supporters and Bernie Sanders? No. Hillary Clinton herself is going on a tour attacking Bernie Sanders and saying personal insults like no one likes him.
Right, and
is she forced to apologize? No, because she's in the club. You don't get it, Cenk. Whoopi's in the club, Meghan's in the club, and Hillary's in the club. They're allowed to say anything they want about you. But if we say, hey, can you not equate us with rando trolls? No, you must apologize. You say, hey, Cenk, you sound like you're raising your voice. That's very uncivil. Because we in the club, we do it civilly. See, watch, I'll do it like this. You're a misogynist, sexist piece of trash. And so is Bernie Sanders and all of you supporters, and you should all apologize for your existence every single day.
What I would say to women is that, you've probably been voting for flawed male candidates your whole life. Hillary Clinton couldn't even win a majority of her sisters. And so the reality is when women get good and ready to have a woman president, they will insist on it. They won't care if the person isn't perfect. They won't demand that they tell what moisturizer they use. They will insist on it. Black voters insisted on it in 2008. They saw somebody viable. They said, we're going to get this. You had somebody who would give you all of what you were offered by Bernie Sanders in a woman who said she actually had a plan to get it enacted. Women had it in their grasp and let it go. Women had it in their grasp and let it go. And I think next time women should just do differently. Women should just do differently.
Wow. Well, at first I was thinking, well, I can respect that she's not blaming men now. She's blaming women, I guess being the majority of voters. But then I realized how stupid she's being. She's basically just telling women, you voted wrong. Next time vote for the woman. But women are not doing that. And they say why they're not doing it. Because they care more about issues than gender.
One day I want to see a woman as president. I want to see an Asian American. But it's also about electing the right person to represent your best interests. So just simply supporting someone based on their race or their gender, but ignoring their politics or ignoring their policies makes no sense to me. And this topic keeps coming up over and over again.
Warren was talking a lot like Bernie in the beginning. Maybe that's why she was more popular then. And she had a chance back then. Then she started to pivot.
Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections. The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women, Amy and me.
First of all, that's unfair. It would be because they have not run in many elections, and men tend to take more chances and risks, which is one of the reasons they succeed more. And then you hear this extreme applause, and not just applause, but the hollers of all the women's. This is only hurting the party. And it says nothing as to whether you'd win the presidency, because I think Hillary won all her elections too. And here she is, continuing to use the woman card, trying to make women look like the underdog.
Since Donald Trump was elected, women candidates have outperformed men candidates in competitive races. And in 2018, we took back the House, we took back state houses because of women candidates and women voters. Look, don't deny that the question is there.
Yeah, the question of whether a woman can win, and she's using that politically to try to manipulate people.
Senator Warren confirmed in a statement that in 2018, you told her that you did not believe that a woman could win the election. Why did you say that?
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it. And I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on this because this is what Donald Trump and maybe some of the media want. Anybody knows me, knows that it's incomprehensible that I would think that a woman could not be president of the United States. If any of the women on this stage or any of the men on this stage win the nomination, I will do everything in my power to make sure that they are elected in order to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of our country.
But none of the other candidates have said they would support Bernie Sanders. There is a club here, and they want to keep Bernie away.
Senator Sanders, I do want to be clear here. You're saying that you never told Senator Warren that a woman could not win the election.
That is correct.
Senator Warren, what did you think when Senator Sanders told you a woman could not win the election?
Now, right there happened to be the sickest part of this election. This was just horrible how these debates were run. Believe the woman. There it is. Don't listen to men.
I am not here to try to fight with Bernie. But look, this question about whether or not a woman can be president has been raised, and it's time for us to attack it.
No, bitch. We don't need to talk about this. But do you just want to talk about it to try to be the underdog?
And I think the best way to talk about who can win is by looking at people's winning record.
Sorry, bitch. I just debunked that a minute ago.
Can a woman beat Donald Trump? Look at the men on this stage.
She's dividing the men from the women. This is what people don't like about the Democratic Party.
This clip of Bernie back in 1988, yes, he did believe a woman could win.
The real issue is not whether you're black or white, whether you're a woman or a man. In my view, a woman could be elected president of the United States. The real issue is, whose side are you on? Are you on the side of workers and poor people, or are you on the side of big money and the corporations?
Now, on the other hand, on the matter of truthiness, Warren seems to have a penchant for embellishing her stories, to put it kindly. A certain ancestry flap comes to mind, claiming her kids went to public schools when they in fact did not. Questions that we're supposedly not allowed to ask about whether she was really fired because she was pregnant. I did not expect Elizabeth Warren to be behind the most vicious attack of the campaign. It is profoundly disappointing.
No, I was looking forward to a woman president 4 years ago, and I still was here, because I think that would get our country through this rut we are in here. And then she goes and blows it. I wish these feminist politicians would just stop. Elizabeth.
All the heat that Bernie Sanders got because he was endorsed by Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so Joe Rogan said offensive things in the past. He said offensive things in the past. We don't like that. So Bernie Sanders, is he gonna reject it? Is he gonna reject that endorsement? Is he gonna speak out against it? How dare he, how dare he? By the way, that all ended up helping Bernie, so good job, right? Because people were like, what are they talking about, right? Why are they demonizing Bernie Sanders? Because Joe Rogan mentioned the obvious about Bernie Sanders, which is that he's had an incredibly consistent record. He's fought for the same things.
Oh my God, Joe Rogan. Hillary Clinton went on Howard Stern's show. Howard Stern has said a million things worse than Joe Rogan. And they're like, oh, Hillary on Howard Stern, that's so cool.
What your message would be to the women and girls who feel like we're left with.
I know. One of the hardest parts of this is all those pinky promises. And all those little girls who are going to have to wait 4 more years.
First of all, that is pathetic. Maybe that's something people don't like about her. She is kind of a sad, pathetic person. Little girls? They don't care about politics. Wait 4 more years? For what? What are they going to get? What are any women going to get? Except maybe an ego boost. Maybe they'll feel better about themselves.
That's going to be hard.
So I agree with her in that.
And women aren't the only people left out here. There were 2.5 vegans in the race when it started, and now there's none. So what about us vegans who don't have the option for voting for a vegan? That, I think, would make much more difference.
It would have been much more, I guess, preferable to have her in the race as opposed to a man who is experiencing cognitive decline right before our very eyes, someone who's a target-rich environment. I'm talking specifically about Biden. That's incredibly sad. Biden is being propped up by the mainstream press when he is the most vulnerable candidate in the general election. Are we actually talking about the substance of these people as opposed to something that they can't control, which is their gender or their race?
But I think that is the reality, is that so many voters are looking for the least risk. And right now, that's Joe Biden.
She said this on March 5, that Biden, status quo, status Joe Biden, with all his mental issues, is the least risk.
As inspiring, but he's somebody who they believe is the best bet to get Donald Trump out of the White House.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you like what you see, help out. If not, vote for the other Biden. Tomorrow's Superstar Tuesday. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right, it's Chris, but anyway.
Chris. I'm the guy that came back after meeting with Deng Xiaoping, the only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point
is
that's
true. The other one is here.
That's what the Democratic establishment wants to give us going up against Trump. They're so afraid of Bernie Sanders hurting the status quo that they're willing to risk everything, risk the country.
John McCain, a war hero. He's not a war hero.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes. Blood coming out of her wherever.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
You got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. 2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians. Throw them out into the cold. Don't give them their coat. How stupid are the people of Iowa? I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters. Thousands and thousands of people were cheering. I'd bring back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding.
I believed that back then, but nobody knew he'd be bringing a virus pandemic.
You know, again, I'm not the political analyst here, but just as a woman, probably considered a somewhat moderate Democrat, Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl.
All right, well, that was former Assistant U.S. Attorney Mimi Rocha during a very slanted anti-Bernie panel on MSNBC. This took place.
Really? On MSNBC, an anti-Bernie panel?
And I can't even identify for you what exactly it is. And I can't even identify for you what exactly it is, but I see him as sort of a not pro-woman candidate. And so having the two of them there, like, I don't understand young women who support him. And
maybe that bitch should ask them. And she might learn something that she doesn't understand.
Like, right?
Yeah.
That's why the rest of the panel exploded in an uproar saying that's not fair. Of course they didn't do that, I'm just kidding. It's MSNBC, so they were like, yeah, what she said, absolutely. Okay, Zerlina Maxwell was next to her. Zerlina Maxwell, well-known hater.
Sanders authored and passed a bipartisan amendment in the House to reimpose the regional pricing rule. Then a senator voted to table that amendment.
To get rid of the amendment proposed by Sanders.
And that senator was Joe Biden.
Much of the drug research in this country comes from taxpayer support. Our amendment requires that the NIH abide by current law and ensure that a company that receives federally owned research or a federally owned drug provide that product to the American public on reasonable terms.
you know, again, I'm not the political analyst here.
All right. Thanks for sticking with me, because you have reached the big finale. This is what the entire video has been leading up to. This woman, Mara Gay, New York Times editorial board, and clearly a flaming feminist. I first noticed their opinion section 13 years ago when they started lying about veganism. I was watching this live, and I was so sickened by her that I just turned it off and just had to go clear my head. So I didn't see the rest of this segment. But the next day on Twitter, Oh, if you've missed this, I made tweets about this. So this shows why you got to follow my Twitter. Brian Williams and his guest neither of them can do basic math. It's not really basic. Of course they can do basic math, but there's something wrong with them. It's like their brains were totally off. This is the most embarrassing thing, the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen on the news. Here it goes.
Somebody tweeted recently that actually with the money he spent, he could have given every American $1 million.
They're talking about Bloomberg spending $1 billion on his campaign.
Let's put it up on the screen. When I read it tonight on social media, it kind of all became clear. Bloomberg spent $500 million on ads. U.S. population 327 million. Don't tell us if you're ahead of us on the math. He could have given each American $1 million and have had lunch money left over. It's an incredible way of putting it.
It's an incredible way of putting it. It's true. It's disturbing. It does suggest, what we're talking about here.
This doesn't seem right, people. I felt like I've been dreaming for the last 3 years, at least. She says, it's true. If you were to write this, if you were to make a movie out of this, you would write exactly this script to make feminists look so stupid. And people would even laugh at your script because it's just so too outlandish. And here it is. You just heard it. It's true. It's true. It's incredibly untrue. Amazing debts. As soon as I looked at these numbers, the numbers are right next to each other. It's so easy to get an estimate that it's like $1.50. 500 million into 300 million, $1.60. First of all, how could one person make that mistake? But two people made the mistake.
Again, I'm not the political analyst here.
And when Brian Williams read this, how could he, as a political commentator, a veteran, think that there is enough money in America for every single person to be a millionaire? How could he say this without pausing and think, wait a second, could we be wrong on this? I don't get it. But what's so bad about this is this, oh my God, we have the debates, which were just so much embarrassment by the Democratic candidates and the liberal media putting on a lot of those debates and asking those questions. And now we got these two liberal people on what Trump calls the fake news, making this huge blunder, outdoing Trump. And you know that Trump is going to use this. This is the most critical time in U.S. history. And the left is really fumbling here. How could this be real? What the heck are you doing? Do you want to win? It doesn't take much to beat some evil doofus. And it's like they're doing it on purpose. How can this be happening?
Unlike the rest of the media, we're super fair. The minute Joe Biden started winning states that we didn't expect, we're like, oh, he's having a great night. This is now a two-person race. By the end of the night, we were saying, no, Biden won Super Tuesday. He's now in the lead. Let's keep it real, right? Because we can do math.